Hello and welcome back to NPC, the show about the games we take with us, and it stands for Next Portable Console. It's just the two of us today. I'm Federico, and I'm joined by John Boris. Hello, John.
Hello, Federico. Yes, Brendon is traveling, so we're going to.
Brendon is using a portable console somewhere.
Oh, of course
you would
is.
think. And today's show is about at least for me, a returning portable console.
Nice.
So, very, very exciting topic that we will be diving into in a few minutes. How are you, John?
I'm doing really well. I've I've been thinking a lot about my lineup of portable consoles. So I know your topic that you've got for a little bit later, and I think it's intriguing to me. It's intriguing to me in terms of what my lineup currently is and where I'm heading. So I want to hear more about what you've been up to.
I think it has an unexpected ending.
Okay.
That is, however, very much in character for me.
Of course it is.
But we'll get to that in a few minutes. We have some news to cover.
Yes, we do.
First of all, I wanted to mention this new higher quality option for the PlayStation Portal. Remember the remote console for streaming PlayStation games from your local network if you have a PS5, or from the cloud streaming service that Sony has for PlayStation Plus members. There's a new high quality 1080p option. So I'm still so fascinated by the Portal for somebody like me who no longer owns a PS5. And I mean, I can use the Portal. I've been streaming some Astrobot, and it picks up your save file from the cloud if you are a PlayStation Plus subscriber. It's still so weird because when you set it up, it wants you to have a PS5, and you gotta go through the setup saying, "No, I don't have a PS5. Just skip the onboarding and continue."
Yeah.
And even the boot animation is weird because you have the pulsing logo that it says searching for PS5. There's no PS5 to search for.
Sure.
And so it's obviously an afterthought that you can use the Portal as a streaming only console. But right now I don't see why I would have to own a PS5 personally. So yeah, the Portal, if you have a PS5, you can now stream in higher quality. Obviously this doesn't apply to cloud streaming, which is a separate integration for the device. And
it's surprising to me that Sony hasn't cleaned up that software a little bit. I mean, that just seems like splash screens in an onboarding that wouldn't be too hard to update. But it's interesting bit of news. Yeah. Speaking of Sony, though, Federico.
Yeah.
Longtime listeners will realize we've talked about the Sony and Honda collaboration on the Afeeling car that has been a mainstay of CES for, I would say, maybe 4 years at this point.
It's been a while.
It's been a long while. Like the very first time I became aware of the Afeeling was when I think this was the initial launch at CES, and they explained how you could broadcast the game you were playing inside your car on your bumper. And they literally had they had it was the original Spider-Man game, showing that the Spider-Man game was being played on the inside of the car across the bumper, which was, a thing, I guess. I mean,
Sure.
Who wants that, right? But it turns out that everything has conspired against this poor car, and the collaboration has ended. And, it's too bad. I mean, I despite the crazy stuff that they were doing, that making, putting things on the bumper and doing weird gaming stuff on the inside, it looked like otherwise a pretty reasonable luxury sedan EV. And they spent a lot of money on it, I would think, given the length of time that it was in development. But yeah, it's it's gone. We're not going to get a PlayStation 5 in the backseat of our car.
Yeah. They're not Afeeling It anymore.
No, they're not. They're not. It's the ultimate portable console, and here it is.
Imagine that, a console you can drive. A console on wheels. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of cancellations these days. I mean, we're not going to dwell on it, but AYANEO has pulled pre-orders of the next two because of RAM, and they basically said we would have to charge people twice as much. Now think about that. That's a handheld that starts at least I think $2,000. In order for them to cover their costs, they would have to charge like 4.
Jesus. Yeah. We're gonna talk about Windows handhelds in a little bit.
Yeah.
Before we do that, John, I mean, I'm turning this over to you.
Yes.
Since you are our Epilogue guy and have been for the past year and a half, what's going on with our friends at Epilogue?
Well, I follow their subreddit very closely because it's a very quiet and cozy place. It's never on fire. But they posted recently a preview of the SN operator, which was essentially someone on the production line showing what it's going to look like. And if you've seen the clear GB operator for the Game Boy, it looks an awful lot like that, except that it's much larger because obviously SNES cartridges are much bigger than Game Boy cartridges. So yes, it really is like the same thing. It's a little toaster style device. You shove the cartridge in it. It's got a USB-C cable that'll go into your computer and you'll be able to use it. I think I saw that there are some shipments that have started. I pre-ordered one of these. I have not gotten a shipping notification yet, so I don't know what's going on there. But hopefully in the next month or so, I'll see it on my doorstep. They did these pre-orders, and those are going to go out. And then my understanding from reading the subreddit is that they're going to start taking orders. They may already be doing so because I haven't been there in a while, but start taking pre-orders on the website for the regular batches of these things, and they'll go out to customers then. So that's on the SN operator.
Let me ask you, so you're going to get one?
Oh, yeah, I've already ordered. I've already paid for it.
How many SNES cartridges do you have?
I have quite a few. I have probably 20.
Huh, 20?
Yeah, at least. This was my first big... So I got that. When this came out, I had a job and money and was living in Chicago. And this is one of the things I got myself then. And so I had this. I still have my original SNES. And so I bought quite a few games. I bought them I bought most of my games, Federico, I bought most of my games at Tower Records. Do you know what Tower Records is? I think they had them in parts of Europe.
Very vaguely.
It was very much a 90s phenomenon, a kind of a music and media superstore, right? It was CDs, but it was also video games, other stuff like that.
Man, it's sold out right now.
Is it? Yeah. So I have quite a few carts. So I'm gonna. I probably have at least as many. I have more Game Boy carts, I guess. But now that I've got with the collection I have, I can add to it. And
this looks really nice. It's gonna be obviously compatible with the Super Nintendo, with the Super Famicom, with the enhancement chips like the Super FX or the SA1. So that would be the Satellaview expansion packs, and it's gonna be region free. So I'm gonna try and get one, especially because like I have my original cartridges for Super Metroid and A Link to the Past, which
nice.
I would really like to rip and play some original vanilla Chrono. Also, I have Chrono Trigger. I should mention.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
So imagine playing some pristine, freshly ripped Chrono Trigger on an emulator. Man.
Yeah, I think Epilogue does a pretty good job with this hardware. I've always been happy with my GB operator, and they've teased that they're going to work on another system soon, and that by the end of the year they'll announce what that is. Now, timing-wise, who knows? I mean, this SN operator has been teased and pre-announced for months, if not over a year at this point. And it's, I think it's a very small team somewhere in Europe, and it's going to take them a while to probably get another one out the door. But, it's good to see this one shipping. The other thing that they announced, they actually have a mobile app on both iOS and Android and the iPad.
Yeah, this is fascinating. This one is fascinating.
Yeah, this really is, because it one of the things you've been able to do with their Play software on a computer is determine whether your cartridges are authentic or counterfeits, and you can also kind of check the memory sectors if they have that built into them, and see whether it's a good cartridge or not. And what they've done is they've built a mobile app that lets you take your operator with you to, say, a local used video game shop or a convention or a street fair, wherever it is that you find your old games, plug it into your phone, and then take the cart and see if it's an authentic cart. Because, a lot of people try to pass off carts as real when they're not. So this is kind of a way to verify before you buy if you're somewhere where you can physically test the cartridge.
I love the idea. I love it. All right, let's talk about Windows handhelds.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so first we got to talk about AYANEO. AYANEO is suspending the pre-orders for the next two. So we mentioned the next two a while back. That was going to be their flagship, really expensive $2,000 handheld. And essentially, AYANEO is saying that due to the current situation with SSD and RAM prices, it's not possible for them anymore to keep selling on pre-order the next two at that price, because they would have to charge essentially double, given the current market conditions.
Yep.
And so I think they said they are going to honor the existing pre-orders.
They did.
But they are not going to take in any new pre-orders. So for context, the next two was supposed to be a Strix-Halo handheld with the Ryzen AI Max 395, the one with 40 core in the APU, giant battery that we made fun of on the show for not being compliant with airline regulations.
Yeah.
It was going to be their flagship Windows device, and it's just essentially it's not going to happen right now.
Yeah.
And due to the research that I've been doing, which I'll get to in a minute, I would be surprised if the same doesn't happen to the likes of GPD and One X Player.
Yeah.
They both make Strix-Halo handhelds. Well,
similar ones, yeah.
Handhelds with a detachable battery that you're supposed to sort of either attach to the back of the console or attach via a cable. But they're also making $2,000 handhelds, and right now they're not raising their prices. But my theory is that they're not doing that because they're selling very low volume and they have some existing inventory they're supposed to sell out of before. I don't think these Strix-Halo devices are being mass produced or anything right now. I think these companies probably made couple thousand of them. How many people are purchasing a Strix-Halo handheld from GPD or One X Player on a daily basis? Put a number on it. I would say less than 50 people.
Yeah, I was going to say like a dozen maybe. I mean,
like a dozen people each day, right?
Worldwide.
Worldwide. These are $2,000 handhelds for like the base model. The base model.
And they can go much higher.
So I think as an industry, we are going to see the whole concept of the Strix-Halo handheld being put on pause for a while. And I actually think I saw the Fox on YouTube, Gary Colomb, post on X yesterday, that maybe the time will be right for the Strix-Halo handheld by the end of 2027. Again, which I can see happen a year and a half from now when things stabilize, and maybe there'll be a PlayStation handheld even.
Because once they get the volume up so that the cost of the chips go down and things change a little bit with the RAM and storage, the entire package becomes more economic, I guess, to offer at a price that at least some people can afford.
Because, I mean, the concept of the Strix-Halo tablet, which you saw at CES, or the Strix-Halo handheld, incredible. I mean, the power of a PlayStation 5 in a portable form factor, incredible idea, but very difficult to execute right now due to, physical constraints. I mean, look at these handhelds. They got to have an external battery.
They're massive.
And they're expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see a year from now, but I would expect to see more news on this front from those other two companies in the next few weeks.
Yeah, the problem is that they were already on the edge of size and cost. And then when all of the RAM and SSD storage prices skyrocketed, thanks to data centers for AI companies, it just blew that entire sector out of the water, really.
But now, I actually had a topic for today to
What's that?
sort of to wrap up the episode. And let me take you on a bit of a journey for a few minutes, John.
Okay.
Obviously, we test a lot of devices. It's our job, both for Mac Stories, where we test devices and we test software, and for NPC, where we test a lot of handhelds. And we like doing that. Clearly, we like changing things. We like experimenting with things. But to balance that out, I think both you and I and Brendon, who is not here, but I think we're all in agreement, we have our favorites, right? Over time, we test things, and then there's an ebb and flow to that, where we usually come back to things that were our favorites. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about that this past week, John. I have a gaming PC. Which is, what an investment I made a couple of years ago at this point.
Good
a year and a
timing.
half ago. Just before it all went.
Same with my mini
places.
PC, Federico. I was weeks. You were months in advance. I was weeks away from it costing a lot more.
I mean, this 5090 with 96 gigs of RAM would be impossible to build right now.
Yeah.
But I don't always want to play in a fixed desktop environment.
Right.
There's a place and time for it. But I was really, and I've been playing around with a lot of Android emulation for Steam games, right? I've been doing a lot of that, and there's going to be more of that on the horizon with the upcoming Lenovo tablet that I got. So I did a lot of soul searching, so to speak, and deep down within me, I sort of knew that this is going to sound so silly, but I asked myself, when was the last time you were truly happy with a Windows handheld, with a PC handheld? And I knew that the answer was going to be my Legion Go. From 3 years ago at this point, the Legion Go is from 2023, 2024.
I think so, yeah, 23.
But the last, I was so madly in love with that handheld. A heavily modded one has a custom backplate, custom kickstand, a little cage for a 4 terabyte SSD with a heatsink. You know the console. We talked about it many times on NPC.
It was a very early episode. Yeah, very early episode.
And so I thought about it and realized, man, I was so happy with that Legion Go, and I haven't used it in a year almost. And so my weekend mission last weekend was, I got to find a way to revive the Legion Go. And when I say revive, I mean it. I stopped using it because I had the brilliant idea last year of erasing Windows completely from it and just going all in with Bazzite until it broke. In the sense that my Legion Go with Bazzite kicked me out of my Steam session, wanted me to log in again, but Wi-Fi was completely gone. It was no longer connecting to any Wi-Fi whatsoever.
Interesting. I think that Wi-Fi was one of the problems that Brendon had early on with some of his Bazzite installs.
And now I was facing 3 potential scenarios. Manually re-download on a drive Bazzite and flash Bazzite again. Find a way to get my Windows recovery partition back somehow, or do what I did, which is a third option, go all in with native official SteamOS.
Nice.
Which is what I did. And I am so in love with my Legion Go again. So I spent a few hours Saturday afternoon doing this. I initially was bumping into a problem because I downloaded the wrong version of SteamOS from Valve's website, which is kind of confusing.
It is.
If you want to do this, make sure you download a file that in the URL says recovery image. That's what you want to install, a recovery image of SteamOS. And there's been a lot of movement on SteamOS in the past few weeks because Valve, I think we mentioned it on the show, released another version of SteamOS 3.8 with even better support for the Legion Go family of devices, plus the ROG Ally and other Windows handhelds. So I knew that I was going to have, for sure, a better time with native SteamOS than Bazzite.
Right.
So initially, I downloaded the wrong file, kept running into issues, and then I figured it out. It was my fault. Actually, Claude told me, like, you're not figuring it out because you're using the wrong file. And
Because you're a dummy.
Because you're a dummy. I felt so dumb. Anyway, went in. And when you download SteamOS, it asks you if you want to wipe your entire drive. Yes, please, because I want to get rid of Bazzite.
Yeah.
And then I went in, flashed SteamOS, logged in with my user account, and downloaded a bunch of beta updates because I wanted to so you download SteamOS 3.8,
Right.
but then something beautiful that Valve does in the settings, you can choose the release track that you want to be on. You just need to put beta, and I downloaded 3.9, which is the beta version of SteamOS with even better support for these devices. And well, the Legion Go is back.
Yay.
My modded Legion Go is back with, and I'm going to show it off
all
on
set up
camera
with
now.
the mechanism clip for the gaming pillow.
Yes, this is Dragon Quest 7 reimagined.
Yeah,
and
looks great.
This is the native. Let me turn down the volume because people are not interested. This is native SteamOS.
Nice.
My library, it's so snappy compared to Bazzite. This is actual, real SteamOS. And
that's great.
There's support for performance profiles. Here I'm playing on performance. And so, yeah, let me talk about this for a second.
Okay.
The Z1 Extreme, with the custom cooling that I have, is still an incredible handheld, much more powerful than a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
And I am able to play Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, all high settings, medium resolution scaling at 60 to 70 FPS.
Nice.
It's incredible. Like
Yeah.
the things I kind of forgot how much more powerful the Z1 Extreme was compared to Steam Deck. I can play Crimson Desert with upscaling and low settings, but I can play it. It looks kind of horrible on the Z1 Extreme, but it starts and it's playable.
It does, because you sent me a screen. You sent me a photo that looked terrible at first.
Just a temporary glitch with the intro animation. And the screen. This is an IPS screen, really, really well calibrated by Lenovo.
Mm-hmm.
There's, with native SteamOS, absolutely no issues with Wi-Fi. There's a built-in support for detaching the controllers of the Legion Go, which I am doing now. You can detach the two controllers.
Right.
And I've been using the clip that you got, the official controller clip, which charges the controllers.
Nice.
Since it has the special attachments here. You sent me this from the United States last year, John, because I couldn't buy it in Europe. And I also missed this is what I love about the Legion Go. It's a powerful handheld, much more powerful than a Steam Deck, more modular than a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
And just today, for example, I plugged the Legion Go into the USB-C cable of my monitor, and it just worked. I played some Dragon Quest at 1440p on my gaming monitor. Absolutely no issues.
Now, let me ask you this, because you used to have a portable eGPU.
Which I don't anymore.
Oh, I was going to say, I wonder if that would work. My guess is not, since it was...
I don't think it's going to work on SteamOS.
Because that was very much required specific Windows drivers.
Yeah, but I'm not interested in that anymore, since I have a gaming PC now. When I want to play with really good graphics, that was my thinking, because I was also researching Strix-Halo handhelds. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, well, I'm going to spend a fortune, like more than 3,000 euros, to play with settings that are not going to be still as optimal as my gaming PC. So I realized when I want to play with good graphics and great performance, I have a gaming PC. But what I miss is a slightly more powerful Steam Deck. And I realized, well, why don't I just put SteamOS on my Legion Go, which is downstairs in storage? What am I doing here with emulators, with Steam Deck? And, I can just grab the Legion Go, flash SteamOS, and I'm going to have a better time than a Steam Deck, which I do. And I tested sleep and resume, John.
Yeah.
I left it turned off sleeping for 2 days.
Yeah.
And for 36 hours,
Okay.
a day and a half, and it lost 15% of battery, which is
that's
more than
pretty good.
acceptable for a 3-year-old handheld. I
Yeah,
think
for a
it's
day and
totally
a half,
fine.
for sure. That's actually quite good. Let me ask you this, though. I mean, have you, I know it's probably been a while since you used a Steam Deck with an OLED screen. How do you think the screens compare?
I think the screen compares really nicely to a Steam Deck OLED, but there's a twist to this story, John.
Okay. Did I just stumble into the twist?
Yes.
I thought so.
Because I've been loving this thing so much. I went ahead and ordered a Legion Go 2.
Oh, there you go. There it is.
Which is gonna be so fabulous because I'm also gonna flash SteamOS on it.
Yeah.
But it's gonna have an OLED panel. It's gonna be slightly lower resolution. This is the thing that I never fully understood about the Legion Go 1. It's got a tiny display and a super high resolution.
Mm-hmm.
The two, I mean, at that point it doesn't matter. It's gonna be 1080p OLED.
Right.
And it's going to have even better performance, and it's going to look better, and you're not going to see the difference in terms of resolution at that size. And it's going to have the more ergonomic controllers, and it's going to have the Z2 Extreme with 32 gigs of RAM, which I am going to dedicate 16 of those gigabytes to VRAM. So I watched so many videos for performance, John.
Yeah.
With the Z2 Extreme, I'm basically going to have like what is rumored to be a Steam Deck 2, essentially. Not going to be Strix-Halo level, but it's going to be all self-contained in this handheld running SteamOS with an OLED panel, and it's going to be even more comfortable than before because of the new shape of the controllers. I cannot wait. But it's coming. It's coming in a few weeks because it was back ordered. So I think I gotta wait. About 20 days for it.
How much storage does it have?
Just 1 terabyte.
Okay.
So I don't want to mod it right now. We'll see later on. But yeah, I'll be fine with the 1 terabyte mod.
Yeah, I mean, you got to maybe manage it a little bit, but you could always do one of those like MagSafe type cases, or a little magnetic sticker on the back and get a external SSD or something.
Maybe.
Because with USB 4, that should be good for a lot of games.
So that was my topic this week, the return of the Legion Go.
I love it.
Propelled me to embrace, and I'm pretty sure I said months ago, I think by the middle of 2026, I will end up having a Legion Go 2 with SteamOS. There is going to be a SteamOS native version of the Legion Go 2, by the way, which you may be wondering, well, why did you get it now? Because I learned, John, that in Italy, due to some dumb European regulation, we cannot sell SteamOS devices.
What, at all?
At all.
Why?
In fact, I cannot purchase the Legion Go S with SteamOS.
Can you get a Steam Deck, though?
I can get a Steam Deck. I cannot purchase these other devices because, there's no parental controls or something like that, which is some incredibly dumb regulation in Italy. The Legion Go S is not for sale at all. And most likely I realized, well, that probably means the Legion Go 2 will not be made available in Italy in June.
There must be something about how it's like a hybrid device and that somehow messes with the parental control regulations and how
I think
operate.
so.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to get the Legion Go 2 with Windows, and I'm going to get rid of Windows and put SteamOS on it. Problem solved.
The authorities will be knocking on your door, Federico, because you don't have parental controls.
This is a Windows handheld. I'm doing nothing wrong. So, the return of the king, man.
I love it. I love it. Oh, man. That thing is great.
Look at the little cage. Still rocking after all these years.
Yeah, everybody loves the little cage.
It's back. It's back and better than ever.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Federico and I are going to talk about some other things, an NPC XL for our Patreon members. If you want to listen to that, just go on over to our Patreon and check it out. In the meantime, be sure to visit Brendon over at wavelengths.online and on YouTube. He would appreciate it, even though he's not here today. And you can visit me and Federico at macstories.net and our various other podcasts we do that are all mentioned there as well. And, of course, you can find us on social media. Just search for our names. We're usually can be found on both Blue Sky and Mastodon. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.